Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Caps. Today, I'm kind of continuing our series of sharing non-traditional career path. I invited another friend of mine who was a scientist and a life science consultant, but now became a volleyball coach in local high school. It's definitely very different from what you've heard before. So I would love to have her on this channel and share her perspective and how she transitioned from a more kind of traditional career path to become a volleyball coach. If you like such content, please don't forget to thumb up and subscribe to my channel. Without further ado, let's invite her. Hi, Miss Jiggy. Welcome to my channel.
Hi, Catherine. It's a long time no see, and I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, great. Just for all the audience, would you mind you introduce yourself, kind of including your past background, experience, and what you're doing right now?
Absolutely. So I'm Jiggy. My previous career was in biomedical research, life science research in the industry, focusing on cancer. And after that, I did MBA and then pivoted into life science consulting. And now I am a volleyball coach for high school kids.
Very interesting career path. I was just wondering, you were a scientist before and you transitioned to being a life science consultant. What made you kind of, I guess, why did you do that transition?
Yeah, so when I was doing research in the lab, I felt like at a certain point, first of all, I didn't feel stimulated enough, and I wanted something more, not just stuff in the lab, but outside of the lab as well. And I was a very curious person. I still am, but curious about different things now. I was very curious about how things were run outside of the lab. So I thought maybe an MBA and maybe a career path in consulting would make the most sense for me because that way you get to expose to a wide range of different things. But at the same time, another consideration was that if I were to climb the career ladder in R&D, research and development, it was the best if I had a PhD degree. Nowadays, more companies are open to people without a PhD degree anymore. It's still difficult, but I just decided that it was not worth it to get a PhD just for climbing the career ladder. Um, as most people would suggest, maybe younger researchers, if you want a PhD, you have to be ready for research and you have to have the passion for research. And I did not have that. So I felt like a different degree would serve my own purpose a little bit more.
Yep, totally makes sense. Right. And after consulting, why did you, not maybe let's say go back to the corporate world and maybe more business side and especially you got your MBA already,
Mm.
but chose volleyball coach instead.
The journey not to go back to the corporate world at the moment, I did realize that there are some things in the corporate world that I was looking for, but like after a lot of deep thought and reflection, they are no longer the top priority in my life. And I'm also in a very privileged position that um, I do have some financial safety net that I can take this time and energy to kind of explore a little bit outside of my original path. Um, and in the past few months or a year or so, I did realize that a lot of the things I was truly looking for, my heart was looking for, could not be offered by the corporate world. Things like purpose. And there are plenty of people that can find their purpose in the corporate world, and it's so heterogeneous and so diverse, and everybody's purpose is different. So I'm not saying that the corporate world is not for someone who wants a purpose, but it was not for my immediate purpose at least. Um,
Right.
and I am the type of person who do want to see kind of a direct impact, a positive impact on people. and their growth and maybe their health, physical or mental. And after some thought, I did find that volleyball coaching might be a viable route for me. I do love the sport very, very dearly. I play during my spare time. I watch a lot of professional plays. I have traveled to actual venues to see those professional players play in person. And I want to translate that passion into something that can help younger kids. And so that's why I decided that in the near term, at least, I do want to explore that avenue a little bit more and kind of just put the corporate career on hold or maybe on pause indefinitely until
Mhm.
I feel differently or until I feel like, okay, it's finally time to drop it. So I'm still open to it. It's just at the moment, it's not something I'm looking for.
Yep, yep, totally understand. I mean, I actually just did an interview with my other friends
Yeah.
who was working at clinical CRO, and just a couple months ago, he also kind of left the job and became a kind of full-time author. And he just got his first book out. He's gonna work on his second book and trying to get out, I think October. So like he really like his status right now and trying to make an impact. So I think everybody's of course different,
Yeah.
and it's not like you will never go back to the previous job. Like nobody know the future, right? But at least at this moment, you did choose what is good for you. So that's great.
Yeah.
But I'm actually very intrigued, because I don't actually know any coaches. Of course, I've watched on shows, and I mean, I don't really have kind of school age kids. So I'm just wondering, like, let's say if I want to be a coach, I don't know, next semester, like, how would I actually get into it?
How I went into it was partially because I was lucky, but partially because I was already immersed in that kind of world. So to play intramural or amateur volleyball, you basically join a few Facebook groups and some other social platforms so that you know what happens around here. And
Mm.
I was lucky because someone happened to have posted something on one of the groups that they are looking for an assistant coach in the spring. So I decided to reach out to them. Didn't have any hope at the time, but luckily they were in need of people. And after evaluating I guess my personality and my integrity, and of course doing a background check because I'll be working with kids, they decided that I was a good fit. And I did mention that this will be um, my first coaching experience while I have all the passion and maybe a lot of knowledge to offer. Working with kids is something new to me, even though they are high school aged and they are kind of entering that adult mentality. And it is going to be sort of working with younger adults, even though they're not there yet. There's still a lot of nuances. So the head coach was very, very understanding, and he basically said, "Any question you have, you can ask me." And I basically just kind of organically found my way through it and found my methodology of how to work with them and how to talk to different personalities. I don't think this short amount of time gets me there 100%, but I did find a sweet spot of, working with kids.
That's interesting. So how does it work? So you said you are the assistant coach and there's a head
Mhm.
coach. How many kind of coaches are there?
It depends on the type of school and the resources. So for most of the public high schools, there's a varsity head coach, and a JV head coach, so junior varsity. And depending on the setup, there might be a freshman coach and an assistant coach. So as an assistant coach, I was basically assisting both varsity and JV and helping them with practice, noticing any technical difficulties, helping people with strategies, and then assisting on statistics during actual matches and providing feedback during timeouts and of course after matches. So a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff. Some of the things that I wasn't doing as much as the head coach, but I would love to get more into it, was designing drills, and forming rosters, designing game strategies, thinking about what to talk about during timeouts. So a lot of the more leadership roles, and that takes a lot of experience. It doesn't, just because I coached the season and I felt quite comfortable in this role doesn't mean I'm ready. So there's still a lot of things to learn.
And I guess I'm just curious. So like, how do you have to be, I guess, I don't know, play volleyball really well to be eligible being a coach, or
Mhm.
you kind of know things on the paper and then you can be a coach?
That's sort of a gray area. So you need to have some basic skills. You need to know how to play yourself in order to be able to coach. Um, but you don't need to be an outstanding player. We actually know a lot of great like professional coaches out there, who were probably the second tier or the third tier league professional players in their own countries, and they probably decided that, okay, I'm not going to have an Olympic career, so I'm
Mm.
just going to pivot and become a coach. So we know there are outstanding coaches out there that had that kind of previous path, but it doesn't mean that you can just go into coaching without knowing anything, or without having any technique. Granted, I don't have the best techniques, and that's kind of one of my weak spots. Meaning, if I were to conduct a drill by myself, and if I want to, help the players by, say, spiking a ball at them, that's something I'm not really good at because I'm not very technically good at the sport.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it's kind of like combination of both, right? Because it's
Yeah,
not like you just play volleyball. You have to also learn a strategy and do a lot of
yeah,
kind of planning things, which
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah.
Got it. Are there like, I don't know, any fun stories or examples when you work with kids and it's really difficult, or I mean you find it's really challenging?
I expected it to be challenging because it was going to be with high school boys, and
Mm-hmm.
I did not work with kids of any age in the past, and I just didn't know what to expect. All my image of American high school kids were from TV shows and movies, which didn't lay a good foundation for anyone. But these kids were just one of the best kids any coach can dream of. They are very nice and polite, they're very understanding, and they are also very open to criticism, constructive criticism and feedback. Some of them are a little bit more shy and you just go up to them and give them feedback. Some of them will directly come up to you and ask, "Hey coach, can you watch me do this and tell me
Mm.
if there's anything I can change?" So I that's another area that I got really lucky with, that these kids are just the best, best group of kids.
So do you only coach, let's say, one age, or like within, like, I don't know, different different grades, and you kind of coach different teams?
So for both varsity and JV, it's everybody from the high school. So from freshman all the way up to senior. It depends on what skill level they're at. That divides them into varsity and JV. But other than that, there's not really a division by year. At the school I was coaching at, they didn't have big enough of a squad to make a freshman team. Freshman team, as its name suggests, it's just full of freshmen, but we didn't have enough people to do that. So it's just varsity and JV.
And the team, like the school team, kind of play against other like teams from other schools, right? There's no like, I don't know, like inter school leagues or whatever those.
There is. So basically we play with the teams in our pool from our state. And then
Mm,
if and when we make it into playoff, we get to play teams from our state outside of our pool, depending on how the pool or how the playoff is drawn. So it's pretty
gotcha.
much like a professional tournament. So in
Mm-hmm.
any professional tournament, when there are so many teams, you divide them into pools. There's pool plays, and you get placement or ranking in your own pool depending on your performance. And if you make it into playoff, you play round of 16 or quarterfinals, or and then you advance into the semis and then finals.
Interesting. That sounds pretty cool. Like if you see kids improving every day, that is pretty fulfilling.
Yeah, it is. We actually made it into the playoff for the first time. If I'm remembering correctly, made it into the playoff for the first time in history. Granted,
Wow,
the
congratulations.
history, thank you. The school didn't have the longest history of boys volleyball, so it's still a big achievement. And we were considered one of the underdogs. But yeah, that was something that we were all very happy about, very proud of. Um, and we want to continue to make the program better.
That's great. So do you travel with the kids to, different campus for the
Yeah.
game?
Yeah, so I do hop on the bus with them. There needs to be at least one adult on the bus to take them to schools because they are all minors.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I couldn't make it, I'll just communicate with the head coach or the JV coach on which one of us will take them.
Yeah, I feel like those moments, at least, I don't know, from the shows, are really like bonding moments with the kids because it's like they're not really playing, right? They're kind of connecting with you.
Yeah, they are. It's a cool moment for them to have fun. It's almost like it reminded me of my like spring trips with my classmates when I was younger, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
outside of the classroom and you get to bump with them, you get to share snacks with them. So for them, it's kind of that kind of experience. But I'm sure like in their education system here, it's not really like a rare thing to do.
Right, they have a lot of field trips.
Yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
for you, like that's the time that you bond with them outside of the games and coaches. Um, right.
It really depends. For most of the part, I'm just letting them be. I don't want to insert myself into their own little social groups. And if they want to just enjoy their downtime, not talking about volleyball, maybe, then they can. But during one of the last games of the season, away games that we need to hop on the bus, I did have some longer conversations with some of the kids.
Gotcha, gotcha.
Yeah.
Great. I'll just, like if we kind of circle back and just
Mhm.
compare your kind of life before volleyball coaching and right now,
Mhm.
kind of if you were just to subjectively, of course, rate your
Mhm.
happiness at different stages of your career out of 10, how would you rate it?
Um, I don't know if happiness is the right term for it, at least personally. I would say maybe how at peace I feel with my
Mm-hmm,
life. Um, I would say right now it's probably an 8 out of 10.
mm-hmm,
In the past, it was probably maybe a 5 to 6 out of 10. Because I was always feeling like there was something missing, there's something better and higher, or just something up there that I need to reach for. And I was always reaching for that thing. And then after I maybe reached something, there's always something even better. So
mm-hmm.
it's like a never ending, it looks like a hill that just has no peak, but it's like looking back, it's like a never ending circle.
Isn't that like the hamster wheel?
Yeah, hamster wheel. Um, it doesn't have to be the case, I guess, for me, if maybe I changed my mentality back in the time, or in the future if I were to get back to it. it may be a different kind of thing for other people when they are in the situation, but for me at least, it felt like um that. I don't know if you've watched the Netflix show Beef, but in the
Oh
show,
yes.
yeah, in the show, Steve Young's character asked um Amy, I think,
Hmm.
yeah, Amy, the female main character, like, is there ever an end to this? And I'm paraphrasing here, but she basically said there's no end. Like, you're always going after the next best thing.
Right.
And when I watched that show, it was almost like a eureka moment.
Hmm.
And I just started to reflect on what I was doing a little bit more. Um, at the moment, why I say it's 8 out of 10, because I really love coaching, and I think working with kids or young adults in one way or another is probably something I would like to do long term. I just don't know what yet, and I need to figure that out.
Right.
So I'll leave that 2 out of 10 for my future self to figure out.
That's great. That's great. Well, I know it's been a while. I just have a one last question.
Mhm.
Just because especially now there's a lot of I guess uncertainty and chaos in job hunting markets, right? And
Yeah.
especially a lot of, like just economy is not really stable and hard for people to find traditional jobs or like the jobs that they think they really want. Plus, of course, you have the pressure from external factors like the family or friends, or maybe just you think you have this degree, you have to do certain things. So I'm just wondering if you have any tips for people like that.
Mhm.
But they might, want to pursue a non-traditional career path, but
Mhm.
kind of maybe just need some push or some ideas to kind of move forward. Like, what would be your tip for them?
Well, first of all, I don't think I'm at a position that I can give tips, because I don't think I have everything figured out. Or maybe that's based on the false assumption that you have to have everything figured out before you give tips. So if I were to say something about the question you just asked, maybe, evaluate your current situation and what sort of must-haves and nice-to-haves you need in your life. Must-haves meaning, do you have a family, a mortgage, kids to support? Do you immediately need a job, like a stable full-time 9 to 5? Or do you have the luxury to explore sort of non-traditional, quote unquote, non-traditional paths? And um, the second thing I would consider is, what are your strengths and passion and purpose? Those three, I would say, are different things, but they could serve into each other. What are some of the things that you can leverage to pursue some of the non-traditional career paths? And if I were to be a completely rational person, I would probably pursue a 9 to 5 that give me a comfortable salary, but start my second career, meaning that non-traditional path, in my 30s, so that I could pivot into that in the long term. And that would probably be the suggestion given by a lot of the people maybe more senior in their career path, and they have figured out that that's a good timeline. Um, but everybody's circumstance is different. You have to adapt to different situations. Maybe your career path is cut short and you just have to pivot, or maybe you just never feel ready, and you never pivot, and that's fine too. Maybe after retirement, you can still consider that non-traditional path. So I would say that is sort of a guidepost, but it's not a user's manual that you have to adhere to.
Yep, yep. And of course, I don't think anybody is ready to give tips to
Yeah.
everybody else, because everybody's circumstance is different, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's just like the purpose of all my videos is just like my experience, or my friends or people that I invited on interviews, your experience. And of course, for the listeners or the audience, they take that with a grain of salt and just evaluate
Absolutely.
their own situation, and then right make a decision themselves. But overall, thank you so much for being on the channel.
Yeah.
It's lucky to have you and share your experience here.
My
And
pleasure.
and hopefully you have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.